She's a wow-worthy woman sharing her story, all while rewriting history and being able to be the unshakable steward of the brand Uncle Nearest Whiskey. I have entrepreneur, founder, CEO, speaker, and two-time New York Times bestselling author Fawn Weaver here in the studio this morning. I am thrilled that you're here and honored to share the space with you.
I am thrilled to be here.
So Fawn, you came here because of this book, Love and Whiskey, and I'm so excited for this piece. But the first thing I want to kick us off with is this cover is really what started so much of your journey, is this photo right here. This black man that we see here was actually justified to the right of this photo when you first saw it.
Yes.
And this started your journey. Can you tell me the story behind this photo?
Absolutely. So we know that now that it was somewhere around 1904, circa 1904. At the time we thought it was maybe 19th century. Either way it goes, to have the most famous American whiskey maker of all time, then and now, take the only known photograph that he ever took with other people. And the person who he chose to put to his right was an African American man. In that time frame, that was astounding. And if you actually look at the full photo, which is not the crop photo, but the full photo, which is what I start the inside of the book with, you will see that not only did he place him strategically to his right, but he actually ceded the center position to him. So Jack Daniel in the photo, even though the photo is about him, is off center, and George Green, the son of Nearest Green, is in the center of the photograph.
Yep, so that was truly what inspired me so much when I was looking at this book, because I also think it's such a parallel to you, is you might have started off just seeing one piece of the story, and you really turned into a journalist yourself and went and researched to find out who this man was, what his story was, and to reframe that. And you have had this long journey leaving your home at 15 years old and creating this beautiful life that you have, but to have a legacy for someone else. You've been on record stating that that's what you are here to do. So what has connected you to this brand so intensely?
You know what? I think it's what connects me to America. I just happen to love the country we live in, and all of our flaws. I happen to love the country that we live in because I travel all over the world. And I am so happy when we enter U.S. airspace every single time. And when the story first came out around the internet, very quickly, they looked at the photograph. They looked at the original headline in the New York Times. It said, Jack Daniels embraces a hidden ingredient, help from a slave. And instantaneously, social media decided Jack Daniel was a slave owner. He stole the recipe, he hid the slave. And that is the stories that we always hear as African Americans, everything that had been taken from us. I looked at the photo and said, that was so intentional that you have Jack Daniel literally saying, even if you try to wipe this man's legacy out, I'm not going to let you. So what drew me to the story is it felt to me like the best of America. And I wanted to know, was Jack who I thought he was, which was one of our first allies? And if so, what caused him to be that way? Because many people that we need as allies now can really be inspired by what Jack Daniel did in the 19th century.
You know, the phrase holding space has been something that we've seen a lot in the past year, and I think this was such a perfect definition of that, of you have a choice whether you want to hold space for what you see as right, and when you have that opportunity to take it and be brave enough to do so, and you have continued this courage and this bravery, not for Fawn Weaver, but for this brand. And you're really in an industry that's set up for failure, a 1% success rate in the spirits industry, and you said, bring it on.
Bring it on, because there had never, prior to Uncle Nearest, there had never been a bourbon on any back bar anywhere in this country. Out of the tens of thousands of bourbon brands that have graced the shelves, there had never been one that did not commemorate a white male. Now, don't get me wrong, I love my white male counterparts. I have plenty that work alongside me, but they're 30% of the country. So the whole 70% of the country, women and people of color, had never been represented in the bourbon industry, in the Tennessee whiskey industry. And so for me, it was so much bigger than just telling the story of Nearest Green and Jack Daniel. It was telling the entire legacy of how we worked together to build one of America's greatest trades. When you look at tariffs and trade wars, bourbon is always right behind agriculture, first one to get hit. Why? Because bourbon is as American as apple pie around the world. And so to be able to represent African Americans and people of color and women in that industry has been an honor.
And the fact that you are going through this and so comfortable and so powerful in your purpose for others is something I'd love to ask you about before we go. When did you sit in that purpose and say, this is what I'm meant to do? You know, you spoke one time about, we kind of think, especially as women, we're meant to birth children, when sometimes we're meant to birth ideas.
Absolutely, and we're meant to raise up other people. Like my team members, they're all my kids, right? And so each of us has a different purpose in life, but this particular one became very clear. So I look at it as, you and I were born with our purpose. It literally isn't innate, but every season we have a different assignment. We have a different mandate. This is my assignment in this season, and I'm going to fulfill it to the fullest, and being able to shine a light on the 70% of this country that has been excluded from this great American industry. I'm going to do that till the wheels fall off.
I can't even wait to see. I mean, you're so young in what you're doing. You have so much time and so much to give back to this country who loves you back, into a brand that loves you back. Before we go, I have to ask you, if somebody is still trying to find their assignment, and those times where maybe you were really connecting those points between charcoal in your childhood, and you were looking at things, and you were in the glop, as we like to say on our team, and finding your passion, finding your assignment, what advice would you give them?
Start with where you are. If you don't love where you are, you won't love where you're going. And so you have to figure out, why are you where you are, doing what you're doing, the job that you're in, the mate that you're with. What are the lessons in that moment, and what allows you to love being in that moment? Every place that I have ever lived, I have loved it. And I've loved the next place just as much, if not more, than the last place, because that's where I'm currently. So that is the thing. It's green lights. Matthew McConaughey's green lights, right? The way that you're able to go and just keep going after those green lights, and just wherever it leads you, just take it, is if you already are comfortable in your own skin exactly where you are, and not waiting for the next moment or the next thing or the next promotion or the next relationship or the next to finally be happy. Find the happiness where you are, and that'll follow you everywhere you go.
Fawn Weaver, ladies and gentlemen, if that doesn't give you a little QC inspiration this morning, then I don't know what will. Everybody stick around for a lot more QC Live coming up right after this.
Thank you. I appreciate it.